Hello, my name is Naja B. I also go by Blurdy or Blurdy Otome, and today I am here with Best Laid Plans, the team behind the upcoming isekai indie Otome, Save the Villainess. I am super excited to be talking with them today to get the deets on the game and their process as devs. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us. My name is Tanya. I am the co writer, the co editor, the marketer, and the community manager of the project. And we're long term fans of yours. We absolutely love your blog and your way of keeping us away from those friend endings who come on, like who wants that? We want the kisses and the doki dokis from Otome Games. So we're really grateful to be here.
Aw.
Yes, we're so excited to be here on this. You're one of our favorite bloggers, podcasters, multi-talented person of a variety of different medias here. And I'm Emily, and I'm a neurodivergent writer, graphic designer, programmer, and jack of all creative trades. And I'm the other half of the two people that make up the main developers creating Save the Villainess.
Oh my gosh, stop. You guys are gassing me up. I'm over here like blushing. Stop. Well, I'm excited to talk to you guys because your team and Save the Villainous has been all over my feed for a while now. And I am really, really excited to talk to you about Save the Villainous. I'm excited to play the demo next week. I'm excited. This is so much fun for me. But yeah, let's kick things off with an introduction. Like I said, Best Laid Plans is a new studio on the
Mhm.
indie gaming scene. But you've definitely made an impression. There's a lot of hype behind your upcoming isekai Otome, Save the Villainess. And before we dive into Villainess and the deets on that, I wanted to know more about your team. So if you could introduce yourselves to everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much again for having us here. I'll start by introducing myself. So, I'm Tanya, and I'm a Desi American writer, editor, and scientist who lives in New York City. I'm a longtime Otome fan. So, not to make myself sound like a dinosaur, but I played Hakuoki on the PSP days. Okay.
Ooh, yeah, that
So,
is.
I'm really old school. I became obsessed with the villainous genre in 2020 during the start of the pandemic. I was pregnant. I was stranded at home, and I was just sort of clicking around the internet when I started getting into villainous stories like My Next Life as a Villainess. I was just mesmerized by this genre that featured, strong, interesting women who were in this giant predicament, who had to kind of claw their way out of danger. And then I met my amazing creative partner and co-developer Emily. We were both writing My Next Life as a villainous fanfic of all things. We were focusing on the original villainess and what happened to her and how she could get her way out of danger. We started writing together. We realized we had so much in common. We loved writing together, and we became a creative team. So right now, besides working on the writing and editing with Emily, I'm in charge of Save the Villainess's marketing and community management. So I'm super grateful to know you think that our game has made a big impression on people. We're thrilled to know that so many people love villainesses as much as Emily and I do, and that they want an interactive villainous story with a lot of choices that they can make to guide the villainess and choose what she does and determine how she's going to survive the crazy predicament she's in.
And hi, I'm Emily. As I mentioned before, I'm a neurodivergent writer, graphic designer, programmer, and jack of all creative trades. And I get to work with the absolutely amazing Tanya on making Save the Villainess. So, while I do write and edit with Tanya, my major focus is on the programming, animation, graphic design, UI, UX, art and sound direction for the game. However, because we are such a small team, both Tanya and I step in to do anything that is required and not being covered by our amazing collaborators. So in my case, that means things like creating cloud dioramas, editing sounds to create the most terrifying hungry stomach noise known to man. I I am so sad. When we started testing this, I thought everybody's stomach sounded like mine, and I have discovered they do not. So apparently I'm like got an elder's stomach noise. And providing the singing voice for a Victorian child dying of consumption that if you play the demo, you too will get to hear.
Sorry, that's so funny.
We like there is no creative depths we are not willing to sink to engage you with our demo here. In all seriousness, though, the reason we are willing to put so much passion and energy into Save the Villainous is because the game is really allowing us to fulfill one of our most important missions as developers and as creative people. We really want to tell stories that can only be told as games. And we want to tell those stories about people who have been isolated and ostracized because they could not fit into the world around them. So we'll probably, I assume, be talking about this more later in the interview, but one of our biggest questions as developers is who decides who is a villainess? And
Hmm.
how do you survive once the world determines you need to be destroyed?
Wow, like I really want to like dive into that a bit more. That's a very interesting and powerful statement you made about who determines who's a villainess and who determines who needs to be destroyed and who needs to be lifted up. Interesting, interesting. And I'm assuming that will be explored in Save the Villainess as you embark on your journey through that game and decide which path you and the heroine take.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I will probably have some points at other points in the interview where we can really dive into our creative process around this. But it is really important to us as developers that we explore how we tell stories and how we decide who is a heroine, who is a villainess, and what are the behaviors or just the aspects of existing as a human being that make us decide somebody is bad.
You know what? We can dive into that now, if you don't mind exploring that a little bit more right now. It's a very good point, and I'm very curious about this, especially since Flirty Otome is built on celebrating diversity and the differences that make us all uniquely us. And you are correct. Villainesses tend to get a bad rap in media, but there are usually circumstances behind their actions or why they became what they are, who they are, or the actions that they take, and that kind of ties into that diversity thing, looking at it a little differently. So yeah, let's explore that. Let's talk about that a bit more.
I think that that's a really important point of concern in Save the Villainess. And you'll see more and more as you head through the story that when Jane, our main character, our villainous character, falls into a bad romance novel she cannot remember, she falls into a very specific fantasy kingdom called Carcosa. And it's a historical fantasy land that's kind of patterned after the late Victorian and early Edwardian period, basically the late 1800s, early 1900s in England. And like England in that time period, and like a lot of fantasy lands in a way that often doesn't get explored, Carcosa is a very hierarchical place,
Mm.
right? The people who are on top get to make the rules, and the people who are on the bottom have to follow them, abide by them, and they have very little recourse for justice if they are wronged or if they are harmed by the people who have more power. So we kind of explore in such a place, in such a hierarchical place that also treats minorities or people who are otherized very differently, people who are, for instance, neurodivergent, people who are not
Mhm.
the, quote unquote, like proper ethnicity, people who are not the proper class, people who don't have the proper abilities that are prized by the society. It's easier for them to be villainized and then victimized. And so we explore that in Jane's story as it slowly unfolds. Why was Lady Jane Neville, the original villainess,
Mhm.
made to be a villainess? Was it something she did? Was it something that was done to her? Was it something that was convenient? Who was it convenient for? So the story just slowly unfolds over time in the mystery, and we really want people to sort of think about, why is it so comfortable for a woman to be
Yes.
villainized? Why is it so comfortable for us to say this person is bad, and we're not going to excuse their behavior even if it's considered okay in other people. So we
Mhm.
can't give too much away because it will be spoilers, but it is a major part of our story to kind of look into. We're labeling this woman as a villainess, but what made her that way?
Oh, I love this. I love this. You're very right. There's a tendency in media to villainize women for just doing what they need to do to survive. And when a man does something very similar, it's, oh, well, they're doing it because they're a guy and it's right and they had reasons behind it. But when a woman does the same thing, it's always, oh, she's wrong, she's evil, she should never have done that just for doing the same things. So it's interesting that those themes will also be explored in the game. I think it's really fascinating, especially in an Otome game, to explore that side of the heroine, because a lot of times in Otome games, it's the love interests that get the biggest storylines and the biggest arcs and things. So I'm very excited to see this story unfold where we actually explore Jane's motivations and Jane's life and what she is motivated to do within the story as well. Emily, did you have anything to add as well?
I actually also want to just expand a little bit on the amazing discussion Tanya just brought up with us here, in that it's not just Jane who gets to grow and explore through this. We, all of the characters, and I have to be careful too much about how I say it, spoilers, have aspects of them that make them vulnerable to the larger society. So it may not be immediately apparent on the love interests, but all of them have something that has made them a point of vulnerability to the larger society, some of them more obvious than others. And so their stories are being explored as well. And a big part of this is about intersectionality, and that
Mhm.
the different ways in which you can become villainized, you can become put away, you can become taken out of society because something about you does not fit with what the society wants for the people that are powerful within it.
I think that you know, we want to explore a lot of different things in Save
Mhm.
the Villainess. We want to explore the growth of all of these characters who are, in their own ways, strong, but also in their own ways vulnerable. We want to explore how are they moving in this fantasy world, which, to be honest, is sort of a deep exploration of what would it be like to live in a world with royals and nobles? And the answer is not really great if you're not a royal or noble. Not always great
Yes,
even if you are a royal or noble.
exactly.
And we also want to get, as we said, into that heart pounding romance, because we think that sometimes the most passionate love stories are the ones where you have two people who have their own flaws and weaknesses, but who come together and support each other and respect each other and love each other and push themselves to be the best that they can be. And if the player chooses to go down the romantic paths, I hope that they see that Jane and her, the villainess and her chosen lover do work together to overcome some of the major obstacles they encounter. So I think it's a very sweeping story, and I'm just excited for people to try the demo when it comes out in July 22nd and get their first taste of it because the demo is literally just a small part of the final game. And if people enjoy what they experience in the demo, we really hope they will plunge into the final game and watch as the story gradually unfolds, because poor Jane, as you know, has amnesia. She has no idea what's going on. And she is going to be in for a wild ride to come.
I do want to touch on that, the fact that Jane does have amnesia in the game. And a lot of times with these isekai adventures, the main character retains their memories of their previous life when they go into the reincarnated life. And that's what sets Save the Villainess apart for me, is that Jane doesn't remember anything. She is literally in the situation, and it's as if she's living out her life with no guide map, no rules, no anything. In um, Gosh, I cannot remember the name right now, but the Otome game.
No
My
idea
next
of,
life, my next life is a
yeah.
villainess. There it is. See, where Katarina literally remembers the game, that she knows that she's in a game. She remembers everything about the game, and she uses that as a guide map to help her dodge doom flags so that she does not die a horrible death while
Mhm.
in the game. But we don't have that safety net in Save the Villainous. It's just Jane out here in the wilds trying to figure things out as it happens with no prior knowledge of what's going on. Do you want to talk a bit more about that? Because that's really fascinating to me.
Sure. I actually wouldn't mind jumping on this. And this is very deliberate. And part of this is because Save the Villainous is both a black comedy and a puzzle box mystery. And w- those aspects actually fit surprisingly well together in the context of the larger story that we're telling here, because what we want you to experience is you are experiencing the world with Jane. So unlike a normal Ultimate Isekai where, as you mentioned, the character is coming in and they know what's going on and they've got a plan and they've got to set it, both you and Jane are going to have to be extremely reactive to the information that you're receiving around you as you look in the game. It's also partly one of the things that informed the design of our game as well. So in our game, the visuals really matter.
Mhm.
There are things going on in the background. What you see on the screen is what is taking place in that world. So something visually odd happens on the screen, that's also occurring in the world. And Jane will often call that out, but sometimes Jane is not going to see things that you are going to see. And you are going to be able to help make decisions that Jane wouldn't be able to make otherwise because of it.
Oh.
And Jane isn't going to have more information than you have. You're going to get all the information at the same time.
Yes,
Ooh.
I think one of the fun things about making Jane an amnesiac heroine is that, like you, she's swimming. She was just thrown into the deep end of the pool, and if she messes up, she will die. Now, you will thankfully not die unless you isekai into our story. Don't get hit by truck shot and isekai into our story, guys. Please don't do that. But she will die if she makes the wrong decisions, and you will get her killed if you don't pay attention to the world around you, or you don't use story mode, which is actually our kind of our easy mode that will help you, if you need support in solving the puzzles. So don't worry, if you're not good at puzzle solving, you can still absolutely play this game and have a great time. But we do emphasize that Jane doesn't know what's happening. You have to guide her. And one of the things Emily did beautifully is that she took all the hand-drawn art of the game done by amazing creative partners like Somate Studio and Saleha Chaudhary,
Mhm.
and she animated them layer by
Oh.
layer. She painstakingly animated every single character, every single background, even things like the item art, the items and the GUIs in our game are either animated or they hold clues. And you, as the player, have to find these clues and pick out these clues. And Jane will pick out and point out to the player some of these clues, but other clues the player has to determine. So, for instance, our GUI has clues in it about the time of day or what's happening in a scene.
Hmm.
Jane does not have access to the GUI. Only the player has
Ah.
access to the GUI. So if there's information in the GUI, the player has to figure it out. Jane cannot break the fourth wall and tell you what's happening. You have to
Oh.
use the information, the clues in the GUI to determine, hey, this is what's happening. Jane does not listen to sound cues like the music changing. You can. And sometimes the music changing will tell you what is about to occur.
I love
Um,
that.
and sometimes there are things in the background, sometimes fading in and out of the background that Jane herself does not realize. But if you, the player, pay careful attention to the background, you can see what is happening before Jane experiences it. You can see things that Jane will never understand to get a sense of what's happening in the story itself.
Okay.
So I think that by giving Jane amnesia and by putting you in Jane's place where you don't know any more, you know some things more than she does, but you're slowly learning about the complete picture of the story together. You're in a space where you are the person solving the murder mystery as much as Jane, or even more than Jane. And we really hope that you feel empathy for her. You feel her tension. You feel her determination to survive. And in the bad endings, you feel her sadness and her grief as she realizes that all her struggle has been for nothing, at least until you restart the game.
Hmm. I love this immersion. It's what one of the best things about Otome games is that it can become your own experience, whether you're a self-insert player or someone who's just like a little voyeur watching the events happen. It's your own experience, and I love that that is incorporated into Save the Villainess in such a visceral way, especially with how, like you said, there's so many clues hidden in the game itself that the main character does not necessarily have access to because she is a character in this game, but you as a player, you have the ability to observe and interact with the world a little bit differently, and you can pull out clues that will help her on the journey, kind of like a little devil angel on her shoulder just guiding her down the right path while also experiencing it in real time, which gives a very unique focus to the story where it's a dual narrative. It's Jane's story just as much as it's your story. And it's kind of this dual narrative coming together to tell the story of Save the Villainess. If that's what I'm getting from what you were saying.
And I do actually just want to expand on this a little bit because I think that's a really important takeaway is the player is an integral part of the story. in ways beyond which we can even talk about right now. You are a huge part of the story being told, and the game remembers your choices. So when you make decisions, when you do things, when you do even small things in the game, and so people who've replayed the demo have realized this, the game will remember what you have done, and it is going to impact what's going to happen in the future. So feel free to go out to try things. You can't fail in terms of the relationships you choose to build with the characters. Our game is very much, we're not going to punish you. If you don't like a character, you cannot
Fine.
like that character, and go for it. The game will not punish you. You will always have an opportunity for getting a good ending, no matter what build relationships you choose to build. But there will be consequences in terms of how the story is going to unfold.
Okay. It reminds me a bit of Doki Doki Literature Club a little bit with how the story unfolds. Like each subsequent playthrough changes the game in irreversible ways. And you can also manipulate the game files to kind of change the story as well. And that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from Save the Villainess, which is very revolutionary for a visual novel and an Otome game because typically these stories are very set in stone. Yes, you have the different branching pathways and you can make choices, but they do follow a very set path. So to kind of have this evolving narrative is a really unique aspect to the story that I'm excited to explore. I love the idea of the game remembering your choices and not necessarily punishing you for them, but integrating those choices into subsequent playthroughs, which changes the story in little ways that you wouldn't really think about moving forward. Because a lot of times with Otome games, you're playing when you're playing different routes, you are replaying the same story with some minor changes every now and again based on which character route you're pursuing or pathway that you're pursuing. So it's interesting that not only does it change based on the character that you're pursuing, but like the choices that you make in general overall.
Yeah, sometimes the smallest choices you make early in the story, in fact, some of the choices you make very early in the demo will come back to, I won't say haunt you, but will come back to you in the full game in, I think, very surprising and interesting ways. So we've really tried to put together a story where your choices and your consequences really matter, and we've really tried, I think the Doki Doki comparison is interesting because Doki Doki did some really fantastic and
Hmm.
fun things with calling out the fourth wall
Yep.
of visual novels and playing with the visual novel format. And while we are doing some very different things, I think we also want to play with the visual novel format and sort of extend it or expand it. And one other thing that we've done that it might be useful to talk about here is that we don't have a normal narrative voice. We have stripped away things like I'm looking at Isel and Isel is smiling happily.
Oh.
Jane speaks in dialogue to herself
Oh.
and in a sense to the player. Jane notes what sometimes notes what she sees, and she does note how she feels, but because we stripped away that layer of sort of narrative normal narrative voice and we've replaced it with something else which I won't spoil you with, you'll see that that a little bit like Doki Doki, we're playing around with the visual novel format. We're playing around with how people expect or usually encounter the way visual novels are told, and we're trying to see how we can unsettle
Mhm.
our player in a good way. We're trying to see how we can catch them off guard and try to evoke emotions in them because we are deliberately doing things that are different from the way many other visual novels do it. Have we succeeded? I guess we're going to find out when the demo drops and people react to it. But our goal was to make a very different kind of visual novel, make a visual novel where we have changed the usual tactics of a visual novel, and to see, can we evoke a mood of, hilarity and mystery and sometimes and romance and sometimes even horror in people by using a very different set of tactics.
Okay. I do have a question kind of dovetail off of that. With indie games, they're always pushing boundaries with what is expected and what is not expected from whatever format they use, always expanding and growing in a way that a lot of mainstream games have not quite gotten to yet. And you did choose a visual novel format, and you did talk a lot about pushing boundaries and expanding and kind of breaking the wheel, so to speak, of what a visual novel is. Why then did you choose a visual novel format for the story of Save the Villainess? Why was that the format that you felt would be best served for telling this type of story?
I actually am really excited to talk about this. We're going to try not to expand this too long because we can go on about our inspirations and what really passionately inspired us to set this up. And actually, would this be a good place to bring in inspirations as well? We discussed this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I do want to just mention that our big key idea for this is that we are telling a story that can only be told as a game when we're setting this up. And we realized this when we were sitting down and we were working out the basic concept of Save the Villainess 1,000 pages of notes later. We're like, this this story can only be told as a game because we want the person who is participating in the story, who is playing the story, to be an active part of the story being told. And the visual novels format is absolutely perfect for that. So we are telling a story, but you are part of the story as you are working with it. So personally, I feel that things like having the animations, having the visuals, having this narrative drive behind this is all just another form of a visual novel where you have this option to make the visual novel come to life while you're playing with it. And whereas I feel like if we had done other things where, there's a focus on maybe a heavier RPG gameplay aspect or puzzle solving, strictly puzzle solving aspect, we do have deductive puzzles that you're doing as part of, the choices in the narratives. It would have taken away a bit from what we were really trying to focus on was giving you the opportunity to explore the story, to create a story within the context of what we were doing. And also just really thrilled with the visual novel community that has helped support us with this as well, which was kind of a happy accident out of creating this, who have really helped us and challenged us to expand our storytelling and our play within this. So, and part of this is too our inspirations. So Tanya's going to mention a few more of the more specific ones around this, but what I actually wanted to just bring up is that we're deeply inspired by history with this. So specifically the late Victorian, early Edwardian period, as
Mhm.
Tanya already mentioned. So one of the advantages of doing things like this as a visual novel is we reference the tarot and the occult experiences which were popular throughout that time period throughout the game. And in a visual novel format, there's a lot of really fun visual ways you can set that up in the sort of overall structure of a visual novel in both the GUI, the background, the sort of visuals that you're presenting in with the story as well. We also have a lot of historical references to clothing, psychology, stories, art, plays, and silent movies from this time period for both the design and the storytelling in the game. And
Mhm.
that was another exciting aspect is that the visual novel format really allowed us to do some fun storytelling devices from older plays and silent movies and things like that because you can set up like that visual cinematography more easily than you can in a lot of other game formats. And
Mhm.
we're really trying to make the game feel like it's from the world of the late 1800s, early 1900s, and specifically to explore how that historical world could label someone who didn't fit its values as a villainess.
Another reason we decided to develop a visual novel is because we love visual novels and we wanted to create a visual novel that could build on the otomes and the visual novels we have enjoyed and played in the past. You know, like I said, Emily and I, our love of visual novels goes all the way back to Hakuoki on the PSP days. Not to date us too much, but there's that. And we really wanted to create a visual novel that is telling this satirical but romantic mystery story where people can sort of solve this amazing mystery while also enjoying this like dark sense of humor and while enjoying, really passionate romances. And you're going to laugh, but one of the reasons I approached Emily to create a game in the first place, as opposed to like writing a novel or something,
Mhm.
is because I played Hatoful Boyfriend.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
like the week before, as we were thinking about what should be our original project. We want to write an original project. We have such a killer plot line, but what kind of
Mhm.
original project should we do? I played Hatoful Boyfriend, and I was blown away by the branching storylines and the ending mystery.
Mhm.
And I was blown away by, I think, honestly, the best mystery storyline and payoff in any Otome game I've ever played, along with some amazing romantic moments. And I cried over giant pigeons. And then I went to Emily and I said, Emily, we have to make Hatoful Boyfriend, but with handsome anime men. And we have to make it with a villainess, and we have to put that amazing plot twist that I'm not going to spoil in. And we're going to have tons of branching paths, and we're going to have tons of choices, and it's going to be great. And I somehow managed to talk her into this. Thank you, Emily. I,
Uh, uh, the funny story is when she first approached me for the project, I'm like, "Yes, I'll do a project." And then she said, "A game." And I'm a programmer, and I had already agreed, and I had like a several day panic attack, but it
Oh
was the
no.
best mistake of my life.
Yeah, Emily, I had no idea how much work went into a game. Emily programs for, she has done programming professionally. She knew, but I'm very grateful I talked her into it anyway. And we are also inspired by a lot of other really great mystery otome games that we've loved.
Mhm.
Sweet Fuse on the PSP remains one of my
My
favorite
love.
games.
Yes.
Sweet Fuse is so
Amazing.
great. Amazing romances. Um, Amazingly fun mystery puzzles, great sense of humor, but
Yes.
also, great horror as the characters are trapped in this amusement park gone bad. So
Mhm.
games, mystery otome games like Sweet Fuse, Bustafellows, Even If
Yes.
Tempest, all these games that have both, passionate romance but an interesting mystery and interesting gameplay. We wanted to create a game like that. We wanted to combine a fantastical world with a thrilling mystery and heart-stopping and sometimes tragic, but sometimes happily ever after romance, right?
Yes.
And we were also inspired by a lot of other wonderful series that are very, very much about satire, mystery, horror. Terry Pratchett's Discworld series is a
Mm.
huge inspiration on us. We do have a Terry Pratchett reference uh,
Ooh.
in the demo if you can catch it. Shirley Jackson is a huge inspiration. The Haunting of Hill House,
Ooh.
amazing book. It was also made into a good Netflix series.
Mhm.
Um, our wonderful murder mansion in the demo is very strongly influenced. Agatha Christie, we absolutely love her puzzle box mysteries. And one
Yes.
of the reasons we outlined our entire mystery and we know the final solution, and we're very carefully laying crumbs even in the demo, is because she taught us, if you want to
Mhm.
do a puzzle box mystery that has a great payoff, you must outline ahead of time. So we already have about 1,000 pages of outlining and notes own, and we did that because of her. And then the Ace Attorney series, uh, we love that series. We don't have the same gameplay, but the satire, the mystery, the humor, it's all great. We love it. And of course, we love villainous isekai stories. We love My Next Life as a Villainess. We love Tear Moon Empire, Concubine Walkthrough, Beware the Villainess,
Mhm.
surviving as a maid in a horror novel, romance with mystery and a sense of humor and high stakes for the villainess where she could die if she messes up. We love these stories so much. And we chose to create a visual novel because we thought this is the best way to tell an expansive story with beautiful visuals while also giving our players the chance to really affect what is happening in the story, and in the case of Save the Villainess, and I think really unusual and very fun ways.
Love that. Okay. No, that is fantastic. So you brought up the mystery elements of the story and how there is this overarching mystery that Shane and the player have to kind of investigate and solve by the end. And
Mhm.
this is a romance game. So romance is integral to the plot. First, let's go over some of the characters of the game and some of the love interests that Jane will be able to pursue in the story. And then I want to talk a little bit about how romance can blossom in this kind of mystery atmosphere where you're not sure who to trust or who's after your life or who's really telling you the truth. How can romance blossom in that kind of environment? But yeah, first let's talk about the characters so we know who we're talking about.
And I just want to say this is such a good question. I'm so excited for us to tackle this after we go through through the characters. It's one of our favorite parts of writing this.
Yes.
So we're so excited about this. So uh, so I am going to open up with, of course, our main characters here. So to be perfectly honest, I think our main character in Villainous, Lady Jane Neville, is both of ours favorite character in the whole story.
Yep.
Hmm.
We love everybody, we love all our children, but Lady Jane Neville is just our star and our secret best place in our heart. And this is helpful because she's the most important character in the game.
True.
So after all, the whole point of the story is to save the villainess, but one of the big things for us is that we want Jane to save herself with help from you, from
Mhm.
help from the players, with help from the people who are going to come into this world and give her some guidance here with this. And this doesn't mean that the love interests aren't going to try to help or potentially harm Jane, but Jane has to be the one who is clever and determined enough to survive the, let's be real, constant assassination attempts. You're going to get a taste of this in the demo, but it ramps even harder as the game continues. She can't depend on anybody else to save her. And we'll be talking about this more in the second half of your question. But she really can only trust herself and the
Mhm.
player. You are going to be her biggest support because
Okay.
everybody else is suspect.
I love that.
And this actually brings us to, well, why is, in at least in part, is Jane in the situation she is in, is that Jane is also a really interesting character in that she's a neurodivergent biracial woman of color. Who
Ooh.
finds herself lost in this terrible romance novel where anyone and anything, even the furniture, might be out to kill her.
The furniture?
Yep.
Oh, okay, we can't say too much, but you're gonna have fun.
Oh my. Oh my. It's like a warped Beauty and the Beast. Okay.
There's some exciting times in there. I'm not going to spoil too much, but we do have turn-based boss battles, except with some loose definitions of turn-based and some
Ooh.
very interesting bosses.
I am intrigued. You have intrigued me now.
She's trapped in this absurd and terrifying situation, and we'll be talking more about this, but horror and comedy really help highlight one another with stuff. And she's surrounded by these people she can't trust. However, Jane is determined to smile and make bad jokes to lighten her mood and do the best that she can. I mean, she's ultimately a really optimistic character and she's doing her best to survive in a world that's actively trying to destroy her.
Including the
We,
furniture.
including the furniture. Yeah, don't underestimate the furniture. Seriously. Keep an eye on it.
I will now that I know that I need to keep an eye on the furniture.
Oh, the game will make it real clear to you. Promise.
Oh my.
And our hope from this, though, of course, is that this is going to make the bad endings where she dies even more tragic. Because one of the things I think we're subverting in this story is that sometimes even all the optimism and cleverness and strength in the world isn't going to save you. And that's a big part of her story too.
I love that.
S- We really hope that our players can come to love Jane in what we think of as all her lovely, hilarious, quirky glory. uh, Even more, we really hope that people are going to want to save her as her tale unravels. We care tremendously
Aww.
about her, and we really hope that people playing are going to care about her as well.
Oh, that's so sweet. Sorry. It's like, oh, I want to save Jane. Like, I want her to live.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm excited. I hope so. We really, really hope that that's maybe the most important thing for us in terms of people interacting with the game. So I'm gonna do one more, and then Tanya's gonna do a bunch here. So with this, but
Okay.
I'm doing this one because this is a character that's very near and dear to me, which is Servant is our non-binary servant character and one of
Yes.
my favorite characters in the game. I
Mine
love
too.
Servant so much.
Mine too.
So you're going to get like a little exclusive background on Servant here, and that my initial pitch for Servant was, what if Jeeves the butler but Lovecraft? um
Ooh.
yeah. And so Servant is kind of this amazing mix of somebody who knows how to serve, but who they are serving is a very interesting question. So they are a very unique character with a very interesting way of seeing the world, who obviously know far more than they are sharing, and they also hint at some of the stranger and darker mysteries of this world. And if you wanna hang with Servant, see if you can find their secrets. If you think you can survive the challenge.
I'll try. I will do my best. I want servants so bad. Like,
Seriously, Servant is amazing. Oh, I love the root. Okay, okay, I can't talk about this. I'll have to be
You
quiet. But
cannot
nerds
talk
are
about
awesome.
this, Emily.
I
That's
will.
outlined, but we're not right. We're not
True.
saying it now.
Fair. No, I will give this little tidbit. For the announcements of streaming Save the Villainess, Tanya asked who my favorite character was, and I was like, Servant. And then a couple of days went by, and they were like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna make the announcement. So Tanya's like, okay, which character did you want to give your message? And I was like, Servant. And Tanya's like, I just wanted to make sure your answer didn't change. And I was like, no, not at all, not even a little bit.
I love your commitment to servant supremacy. I was paranoid it would be Isel because everybody was choosing.
No, I was like, Servant. No, no questions asked. I was like, they're mysterious and they seem like they know more than they're letting on, and they probably will kill me. Gimme. That's what I want. That's the one I want. The murder one. Yes.
We cannot say more, but this is a very Jane is lost in a very bad romance novel, and it might be the kind of novel that says the butler did it and mean it. Okay.
You know, what a way to go. A hot butler taking me out. Let's go. It's fine. Or maid. Depends on the day.
Look,
There are worse endings. There are worse endings.
True.
and just gonna say amazing taste.
Yeah.
I absolutely 100% agree with you. Okay,
Thank
I
you.
will. I'll let Tanya.
So I'm gonna blather on about my favorite character, Edmund, now. Let me
Yes.
pull out my notes. I have a lot to say about him.
Oh my, notes.
Extensive notes. We always come in with extensive notes.
I
So
love it.
Edmund Alpin is our crown prince character because every bad romance novel needs a crown prince. I think this is like an ironbound rule. If
This
you're
is
doing a
true.
historical romance novel, you need a prince somewhere, and he'll probably have blue eyes and blonde hair.
Of course, always.
Am I lying? No. However, Edmund is actually our subversion of the crown prince archetype. Because a lot of times when Otome games or romance stories in general write about royal princes, they come in like two different flavors. They're either incredibly perfect or the perfect yandere. That's it, right? Incredibly perfect or perfectly crazy. Like,
Yeah, look here's
one of
looking at My Next Life as a Villainess.
yeah,
Just
exactly. Jord, love him. But when you meet Prince Edmund Alpin in Save the Villainess, you're going to pretty quickly see he's neither one of these characters. In fact, he's like this adorable, hilarious dork who thinks that puns are the most brilliant form of humor, and he
oh,
gets so easily flustered by Jane's words. And so many people, one of the best things about playing the demo live with people is seeing them like go, "Oh my god, I did not expect this guy who looks like this to have this personality." And he's very baby girl. He's
oh.
so cute and funny and dorky, and I don't think anybody who just sees a picture of him would predict that personality. But he's such a fun character to write, and he has such adorable like chemistry with Jane. They are such dweebs together.
Oh my
I just love
gosh.
writing them. That said, Edmund's still going to surprise everyone with his route. He is going to have some of the most amazing twists, and he's going to grow a great deal as a character. Because one of the things we do want to explore, like we said before, is how are these characters vulnerable because of the world that they grow up in? This frankly very hierarchical, um, classist world that uplifts the nobles and the royals over the common people. How has he been affected, even though he's in a position of amazing power, of great power? What has growing up in this world done, and how is he going to react as he goes throughout the story? And I think he has one of the most powerful character arcs in the whole game. And it's an arc that's rarely been done with the Crown Prince character.
Hmm.
And whether or not the player chooses to romance him, Edmund has amazing endings to all of his stories. So, we hope that our some of our players will fall utterly in love with Edmund and his dorky charm and sincerity. But even if they don't, even if they chose to just go with the friendship route with him, we really hope people learn to love him as a character and learn to really appreciate the growth that he goes through throughout the entire story. we have already finished writing Edmund's route, and I'm
Ooh.
so proud of what we have accomplished with him. And he's by far my favorite character. I must admit it.
Yeah, and so to back this, we're actually going to do my favorite love interest next. So
Ooh.
that we actually, as a sort of a side note, Tanya and I have little competitions where we try to sell one another on our favorite characters. and so and so we're pulling little pieces of that for doing our discussion of them here. So my personal favorite love interest, really close with Servant, is Lord Ben. And Ben is our version of the childhood friend, right
Ooh.
down to his brown hair and his ability to actually hold a conversation with the main character without it descending into misunderstanding.
Aw.
So, however, if anyone thinks that means that Ben will be boring, they're in for a bit of a surprise. Because one of our goals with Ben was to take that base idea of a kind, dependable, and frankly kind of done quite a bit childhood friend character and do something much darker and more interesting with it. So,
Hmm.
w- one of the big things that we haven't talked as much about here with this is our big idea when we were doing this is we wanted to explore how you could make a historically plausible Otome game. So in Otome games a lot you have a noblewoman who is executed or exiled for harassing a commoner. And in what we know of hierarchical societies,
Mhm.
that normally wouldn't happen. So, 1,000 pages of notes later, we came up with something plausible, and we made it plausible as much as we could across all of these archetypes. How historically could we make this make sense? So, in this case, not all historical power has ever been based solely on title, and we really wanted to deconstruct the idea of a childhood friend of a noblewoman.
Ooh.
So, how does a young boy become the playmate of a duke's daughter? In a time where reputation and avoiding damage to a reputation were the sort of major coin of a woman's social currency.
Interesting. That's actually a very interesting thing. I don't think I've played an Otome game where that was brought up. It's usually just, oh, my son here is around the same age as your daughter. Let them play together, kind of thing. But you do bring up a good point. That would not necessarily be something that would happen.
Yes. Yeah, and historically, that's definitely not what was happening. So we're like, okay, we're going to work on this. How would this happen in historical context? So there is a lot of potential for a character who knows all your secrets when you can't remember any of his. Ben has a lot of secrets of his own. And I am really hopeful that the way his past, present, and future come together as players get to know him will make them fall as in love with him as I have. I think he's amazing, and his storyline is. Oh, I'm tearing up a little bit thinking about it.
Oh,
I think it's really incredible, and it ties into a lot of aspects of his character that both visible and not visible.
I love that. Childhood friend routes are a bit hit or miss for me. Either they're done really well or they just frustrate me to no end. So I like the idea of a childhood friend where they know everything about you, but you don't know everything about them because of your amnesia. Usually, in these childhood friend routes, you both know everything about each other, and it's kind of overcoming that friendship hurdle to develop into a relationship that's more than just friends and more than just platonic. But in Save the Villainess, it sounds like it's not just overcoming the friendship hurdle, but you also have to overcome the knowledge hurdle as well, because there's a lot that you don't know. So you now have to relearn who this person is.
Absolutely. And a big part of this too is you have the tension that this person really knows you and you are not what they know. And how
It's
are you going to navigate that?
it's giving Toma from Amnesia vibes. That's what I'm kidding. I just thought about that. I was like, it sounds a lot like Toma's route, where the main character in Amnesia Memories has amnesia and she can't remember anything. And here comes Toma saying that he knows her, they're besties, they're dating, he's her boyfriend, all of the stuff that he knows about her, and she's very trusting of him. And then you find out halfway through that he's kind of been lying to you about a lot of stuff. I am a little concerned.
And we're
Well,
simply not going to comment.
we're not going to comment, but well, I will add one thing. Sometimes the scariest part is not when someone is lying to you, but when they're telling you the truth and you don't understand how to interpret it.
Oh
That's all I
my.
can say.
Oh
Um,
my.
I'm going to go on to Duke Aizokuze, who is my second favorite character. And
Mhm.
he is our version, but also subversion of the classic Duke of the North character that shows up in all these villainous stories, but also a lot of, there's versions of him all over all these romance novels,
Yep.
right? Like you
Mhm.
pick up a Regency romance novel and there's some hot Duke, right?
Always.
Like the hot Duke of Bridgerton's first series.
Mm.
Um,
Yes, Duke
so
of Hastings.
yeah, oh, so handsome. And what we love about Duke Aizokuze is that we took his archetype and we just stretched it like taffy because he is one of the funniest love interests in Save the Villainess. I think he has the most killer one-liners in the entire game, and that's saying a lot because there's a lot of killer one-liners in this game if you like our sense of humor. I mean, when you think about like the classic Duke of the North character, whether it's from a villainous story or whether it's from like a romance novel, you think like this is a cold, hard man, right? He's experienced tragedies in his life. He lives in a very harsh, monster infested land. He's grim and dark. He averages about 3 words and 2 facial expressions a week. Like, you're not going to get a lot out of him, right? You're going
True.
to have to work so hard to melt his icy cold heart. And to be fair, Aizel has a lot of traits in common with the Duke of the North archetype. He has experienced a tragic life. He does live in a very harsh land, and you will see evidence of that in the demo, and it's going to be amazing. Um, but he's one of the funniest characters in the game, even when he's not trying to be. He's like knee deep in terrifying northern monsters, some of which you will encounter in the game.
Ooh.
But he's got this almost like Terry Pratchett, Monty Python, Discworld like comic sensibility about him. He says like the most absurd things with a totally straight face because even though you might think what the hell is he talking about, that's just his normal life. No matter how odd it might seem, like he's just used to monsters popping out of his sofa and trying to eat him,
Oh
you
my
know
gosh.
and so he'll just talk about it with a totally straight face while poor Jane is like, what the hell is going on?
Are you good? Are you okay?
What's happening here? I'm terrified. What is this?
Oh my
And
gosh.
honestly, I just have to say, Isel has to be experienced to be believed. He is such a fun character. His route is a wild journey that will take you to places you would never expect. But he does have a really interesting characterization that will slowly unfold over time. And he does actually also go through some really important personality development through this game. So he's not just there to be sexy and funny. He actually has a really interesting character, and I can't say anything more without spoiling him, but we really do dig deep into his archetype in the end, and that's all I can say. That's all I can say. But I love him. I hope other people love him as well.
I get it. I get it. But with a game that's coming out, there's only so much that you can sprinkle out. You don't want to
Yeah,
spoil the experience.
Well, and it's also tough because it is a mystery game. And so
True.
part of it is that part of the mystery isn't just who's trying to murder Jane, it's who are these people? What is motivating them? And they all have motivations, whether that is to murder Jane or not. And so you have to discover the people as part of solving the mystery and as part of understanding the story. So we don't want to spoil too much because we want you to find that out for yourself
True.
as you're poking with it. We do have one last love interest we want to mention fairly
Ooh.
shortly, and it has to be very short because we can't say that much about her. it's, which is really frustrating. So,
Secret.
secret, we do have a mysterious female love interest in our game.
Ooh.
Yeah, who is she?
Yes.
We can't tell you.
Oh.
what what's her role in the story? That is so spoilery. Even me saying it is spoilery is a spoiler.
oh god,
Oh my
it is
gosh.
true.
Uh, will we show off something more of her than a silhouette? Eventually.
Maybe.
All we can say for now is that she says she's amazing, and we are so convinced she's going to be worth all the waiting. Oh my gosh, I love her.
Ooh.
Frankly, she's one of the most gorgeous, charismatic, dynamic characters in the game. Oh, she's so good, and we can't wait to share her with the world. So, and just to note, even if you don't want to romance her, she's got an incredible story and both a romantic and friendship ending as well. So,
Oh, I'm so excited. A secret character. Okay. In Otome games, the secret character is usually hit or miss, but the way you guys are hyping up this character and it's a female love interest, like
I
I
will
am
say
sat.
I will say I think that she has such a complex backstory and such complex motivations, and we take an archetype, which I cannot even go into what archetype it is, but we take a very common archetype for female characters, and I
Mhm,
think we do some amazing things with it that frankly is really underexplored, and
mhm.
we rarely have seen it in media before. We have rarely seen this archetype handled the way we handle it, and it helps that she is so beautiful, and she is beautiful in a way that we don't normally get to see female characters be beautiful in villainous stories or uh I think otome games, and I am uh, it kills me that we can't show off much of her because she's a walking talking spoiler, but she has such amazing chemistry with Jane. I really think that even if players do not want to romance her, which, totally their choice. You don't have to
Hmm,
romance anybody in this game. You could always go the friendship route with them.
true.
But she has such amazing chemistry, and she has such a wry, dry, hilarious sense of humor. She's so much fun to write. I can't say anything more, but she's so
Okay. I have a question. This is a villainous game. There has to be a heroine. Is it the heroine?
we
we can,
we truly cannot answer like
Okay.
anything about that.
Like I
Yeah.
said,
Like,
two of my brain cells just finally decided to connect and like fire off at the same. I was like, wait a minute, this is a villainous game. There has to be a heroine.
um,
Where's the heroine?
we will say for anybody who wants to take a look at our Discord at any point, we do have some amazing people who have been putting together like an entire document of theories about the game, like both things they found and like theories as to what they think things are. And there is somebody who's done an entire write up on your theory there. We can't really say much more than
Really?
that.
Okay. That's my theory. I'm gonna put my flag on it. That's
I
Well,
love that theory, and I will say that we have carefully looked at every single archetype that shows everything single major archetype that shows up in villainous isekai stories or villainous stories in general. And we have tried to do something interesting with all of those archetypes: the villainous archetype, the crown prince archetype, the Duke of the North archetype, the childhood friend archetype, the servant archetype, the parents of the villainous
ooh.
archetypes. We have tried to do something interesting and unique with all of these archetypes. And I will not say anything more about the heroine archetype, but it's possible something interesting is going on over there. Who knows?
Okay, okay. You keep your secrets. So, since we've covered all the characters, I have to ask, you've told us who your favorites are. Which characters are most like you personally?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if any of the characters are very much like me. I would have to say, if I had to choose a character who was very like me, I would probably say the closest is Jane and Edmund.
Mm.
Jane, I think she's a much stronger character than me. I'd be curled up into a ball, crying hysterically. Once I entered Murder Mystery Mansion, she just goes on with things. Very very determined and very strong. She's much stronger than me, but I do think I share her sense of humor and just wanting to laugh at ridiculous things in my life. And Edmund also is a really sincere person, and I think I share part of that with him, and so they're the two easiest people for me to write because we have some shared personality traits. But at the end of the day, I would say I'm very different from all of the characters,
Mm.
and I think that they all have very unique personalities. So I don't really know if I have anything in common with the other characters, so I think Jane and Edmund is about it for me.
Okay.
So I'm kind of a mirror version of Tanya on this, which is partly why we work really well as a collab team in terms of our approaches to writing and to doing the characters here with this. So Edmund is actually the hardest for me to write as a character when we're doing the write up, and I would say, and it's actually in a kind of an interesting way. I wouldn't say that either of us have self or inserts into the game.
Mhm.
Jane and Isel are the easiest for me to write, but it's actually for a very specific reason in that we borrowed aspects of my particular neurodivergence for both of them.
Oh.
So different ones. So Isel has a different aspect of my neurodivergence than Jane does. And so Isel is actually probably the closest to my particular brain in terms of how he thinks and processes information when he's going through his story. And I would say that we are both really passionate people and that we are both very earnest and determined ourselves. And I think that does reflect across a lot of the characters in the story in various ways. Not necessarily to the point that they're actually our self-inserts, but that we love people who care and who are driven and who want to find ways to make things work. And I think that's a commonality of just about everybody in the game.
Yeah, even I think what's interesting is that even so-called villains or antagonists, everybody in the story cares, but the problem is sometimes what they care about can lead to triumph. Other
Mhm.
times it can lead to complete tragedy. And that kind of earnestness, that sincerity, that deep desire to make a change in the world that they believe is for the better is something that is common both to us and to our characters.
Nice. Okay. Okay. So, I did also want to know how romance with these characters kind of develops in this kind of mystery setting and this mystery environment where, again, Jane doesn't necessarily know who is really on her side and who's out to get her. Could you guys talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, that is a great question. So we really started off knowing that we wanted to have a story that had romance and mystery and deadly stakes because there's so many great stories that we were inspired by, like so many great villainous stories that just combine romance and mystery together in a really fun way. I've mentioned some of these stories before: Tear Moon Empire, Concubine Walkthrough, How to Survive as a Maid in a Horror Novel. We love all of these villainous stories, and they do such an amazing job using dark humor to highlight how their female protagonists are surviving these terrifying circumstances while finding love and forming loving, respectful, passionate relationships with a partner along the way. And we think that, we have a really fun balance, a really great balance of romance and humor with mystery and horror in the story. And you could actually use romance and humor to ratchet up the mystery and horror tension in the story. So sometimes we can have a loving interaction, we can have humor, and then whiplash to dark situations suddenly coming up as danger looms around, and and Jane and her love interest have to sort of figure out, how can we get out of trouble now. And one of the questions we do want our players to feel is we do want our players to kind of think about is, what do you do when the person you're falling in love with might be the same person who wants to murder you? We want our players to feel that tension. We want our players to laugh and fall in love with the character, but also wonder, can I really trust them? I think that that sense of being off balance will actually heighten the romance and heighten the feeling that, I want to learn more about this character because they might be the person who's trying to save me or the person trying to destroy me. We think that kind of tension will really actually support the romance of our game.
And specifically with this, because the central mystery of the game is which love interest betrayed the villainess and why do they now seek to murder her, this really creates, I think, a really interesting set of romantic tensions when you are interacting with the characters, as you've mentioned, because for Jane to actually answer the murder question, she has to interact with the potential love interests. She can't remember them. She has to gain this information, and she has to decide who she can trust, if anyone, and how she will react if she chooses poorly. So it is relationship building with this thing hanging over the head. And our experiences when we've been sharing this with people ahead of time is it does make it more intense. Every word becomes analyzed. And so you do, I think, really take in a lot more of the characters because you are having to focus on what they're saying and what they're doing. And so you become very intensely connected to them, whether you think that they're guilty or not. So each of the love interests to be clear, can have a deep, tender, even passionate romance with Jane, depending on the choices she and you make. But at least one of them can also murder her.
That's a little spicy romance there.
So I mean, we do play fair on that when we say that somebody wants to murder her. Somebody does want to murder her. We're not doing some retcon that, oh, it turned out there was no murderer all along. There's a murderer. It's up to Jane and you to decide who she's going to trust and whether she should continue to trust them as the game progresses. And I think this is a really important thing. You can revoke trust in this game.
Ooh, I like that.
Big part. Yes, absolutely. And to be fair, the game is also very strongly about consent in a number of varieties of ways. But you can revoke trust. So you deciding to trust somebody early on does not mean that you have to continue to give that trust. You can change that decision as you go, as you get further information. One thing we can't say too much about, but I just want to mention as a side note, this trust is going to become even more delicate if and when Jane learns the truth of what happened to the villainess before Save the Villainess even began.
And I also want to emphasize we play fair with both the mystery audience and the Otome audience. Mystery audiences will get the payoff they want. There is a definite um, ending to the story. We know definitely all the answers to all of the major questions that we're positing about. There's who is the person out to kill the villainess? Why are they trying to kill the villainess? Why did Jane, this person end up in Lady Jane Neville's, villainous body? What happened to her before she came into the body? Is she ever going to find her way home? We will answer these questions. But we also play fair with the Otome audience because players can make the choice to get into a relationship with each of our 5 love interests. So they can decide to pursue Edmund, Isel, Ben, Servant, or the mysterious woman. Each of these characters have romantic routes the players can go on. Each of these characters can fall in love with Jane. Each of these characters can have a climactic romantic scene, and you can decide between like sort of a sweet declaration of love and even a fade to black love scene if the player wants one. You don't have to do the fade to black love scene, and each can have a happy ending with Jane. So we're not having tragic only tragic they all die sadly in each other's arms endings. Okay, there are those endings if you get Jane killed. But if you want a passionate, intense, respectful romance story that ends in happily ever after, you get 5 of them from this game. But
Okay.
that depends on the choices you make as a player, and that depends on your willingness to stay with the love interests despite whatever their past might be. And if you don't want to stay with the love interest, you can make that choice into the route. Okay. Even well into the route, you can decide to break up with a love interest, say, goodbye, loser, you're not good enough for me, and basically end up with a single ending where you're living your best life as a single woman. The choice
Ooh.
to stay in love, to fall in love, to be with a partner, or to be single and making it on your own as a strong, independent villainess who don't need no love interest is up to you. Like that's your prerogative as a player.
I know a lot of players want a I'm alone single ending where the heroine just goes off and strikes her own path. It's like, forget these scrubs. I'm living my best life. I like that. That's a thing that you can do. I was going to ask if you left a love interest, would you be able to pick up a different one? But you kind of answered my question a little.
Well, we do have 3 different single endings
Mhm.
where Jane is just living her best life. And they're 3 very different single endings, and they're very fun single endings. Like if you can keep Jane alive to the end of the story, you deserve a happy ending. The happy
True.
endings are very happy. She's making the most of it. She's girl bossing her way around Carcosa. She's doing just great. Whether you can dump one love interest and take up with another, okay, can't spoil that.
That's a bit complex, and we really can't talk
Oh,
about it.
I love that.
Can't spoil that. But you can make it happen. You might be more likely to make it happen if you jump on to Save the Villainess's Kickstarter, which runs
Ooh.
from July 22nd to August 22nd, and you help us reach some stretch goals. Okay,
Support, support.
there might be some new love interests there potentially.
Ooh. Interesting. Interesting. Teasing us again. You guys are really good about teasing us on your socials, by the
I'm
way.
I'm I'm glad to hear that. I'm the one doing that, and I'm like, is this working? And I'm glad to hear it is.
Every time I see something, I'm like, okay, but now I need more. You can't just tease me with this. I need more. I need more. I want to see what's going on here. But You guys are very good about teasing. Even in this
Thank you.
interview, you're teasing little nuggets, and I'm like, I have so many questions, but I can't get
Oh,
answers.
I'm sorry. We just can't spoil
I know.
so many secrets. I hope we can really set up our surprises in a way that pays off. Actually, one of the hardest things to do about writing this game, we know each of the twists and each of the surprises, but it's sort of staggering them throughout the route. So we're like, okay, wait, this surprise comes first, and then logically this twist. Oh wait, we got to fit in this twist somehow. Okay, maybe this twist should come earlier. No, twist should come later. It's like we have we have to kind of figure out what's the best way to deliver these 20 different twists in a single route.
Yep. Okay. So that does bring up a question I have. I was going to ask about the mystery itself. So you did say that you kind of know where everything is going and how it's going to all come together. Does playing one route give you the answers to everything, or is this a game in which you have to play everything to get the full scope of what's going on?
I am excited to talk about this. We actually haven't had much of a chance to, haven't had much of a chance to discuss this. So one of our goals for this is we know a lot of players are going to pick one character that they have fallen passionately in love with, and they're going to want to play that one story, and that's going to be their story for Save the Villainess. And we value that and we totally respect that. And so we want to make it really clear that whatever route you choose, you will get a complete story. However, if you want all of the stories to come together, you will need to play at least 3 different routes. And then there's, shall we say, special secret, one of the few we can actually tease. If you do play the 3 different major branching paths and choose any of the options within those branching paths. But you will, if you do choose to just play one route, you will get a complete story that will answer the mystery we've been posing at the beginning by the end of that route.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. Because that's always a thing with mystery stories, especially like I remember Collarx Malice. The
Oh,
only way you get the truth is if you play through every single route, and
no.
it can. I love Collarx Malice. It's my favorite Otome. Not gonna lie, but it's a lot to play through all of the routes just to get that one answer. And sometimes with some games, that answer at the end is not it. Colorx Malice did a good job of setting that up. But some games they tease this huge ending and you finally play through all 5 routes, you do the secret character, and then you get the answer and you're like, that's a dumb answer. Looking at lover pretend.
It's
Oh.
it's it's like those jerks who do like the presents that have boxes inside boxes inside boxes inside
Mm-hmm.
boxes. And you get to the bottom and it's like, something really tiny and not very nice.
It's like, what is
Um,
this?
yeah, and so we like to think of it as mystery plus.
Okay.
So you do a single route, you are going to get a complete story, you're going to get a solution to the mystery posted at the beginning, but there's a plus element. If you
Mm-hmm.
want to do more, you'll get even more.
Excellent.
There's different perspectives on the same mystery doing the different routes. There's little pieces of extra information that you'll pick up, and if you do choose to do the whole thing, we have a reward for the people who do want to
Ooh,
go through the whole set of stuff.
I do
And I
like
will
a
say,
reward.
to get to the final route, you have to do Edmund's route and get any ending, whether it's the Edmund ending, the single ending, or the special ending for Edmund. You do Isol's route, you can again get the Isol romantic ending, single ending, or the special ending there. And then you go through Ben's route and you again can get the Ben romantic ending, the single ending, or the special ending there. So you just need to get
And just as a quick note, special endings may include love interests not mentioned in those routes.
yes, the
Oh.
special endings will include the servant romantic ending and the mysterious woman romantic ending.
Oh.
And as long as you get 3 of those good endings, one on each route, and it does not necessarily mean you got to romance the dudes, you will unlock a final special route, which is all about the final mind-blowing answer to the mystery. And I know it kills me that we can't talk too much about it, but I
Oh.
really truly believe this will be the most fascinating part of Save the Villainous if you're into the mystery plot and if you're into understanding how we're finally going to, let's say, play with the visual novel genre.
Ooh.
This is absolutely not something anybody has to do. If you are a huge Edmund fan and you just want to romance Edmund, you will get a good 30 hours of romancing
Oh
Edmund and have
my.
a lot of fun. Like between the common route and Edmund's route, you'll get a good 30 hours of romancing and hanging out with Edmund and fending off assassins and finding, finding your romantic destiny with him. And it will answer all the major questions in his route. And I think it's a very satisfying, very joyous, very loving ending. But if you want to continue and see what we ultimately did to answer not just the main questions of our game, but also kind of our final touch to trying to leave our mark on the visual novel genre, you should play the final route. And I do think it is a spectacular ending. You kind of
Ooh.
have to take my word for it. Of course, I wouldn't, of course I'll say this, but I remember this when Emily and I were coming up with the story. We came up with this ending
Mm.
twist first. And I just told her this is the most amazing, mind-blowing twist I could think of for the villainous isekai genre. We have to create a game for this because it can only be done in game format. We could not do this in any other way. And I hold to that, and I really hope that the people who decide to buy our game and play every route to get to that final ending feel like their time is worth it and feel like they have experienced something that I've genuinely never seen done before.
And one thing I want to note is the routes are very different. So if somebody is worried about, oh, well, I'm going to be repeating a lot of the same stuff. No, no,
Okay,
no.
good.
The routes are very different. They are completely different story sets. And we also have a chapter system, which means after you have done one route, you can just use the chapter system to skip straight to the start of the other routes. You don't have to
Yes,
just
no
remember it again.
replaying.
Oh,
No
thank God.
replaying the common route. Once you finish the common route once, that's it. You can go straight to the start of Edmund's route, Iso route, or Ben's route. So you don't have to spend the 10 or 15 hours replaying the common route all over again, even with skip. You just go straight to where you need to go. You will save yourself a lot of time. And Emily had to do so much programming to make that happen, but I genuinely think it will make the game so much more navigable for people who do want that final ending because they don't have to keep playing the lengthy common route over and over.
That is a godsend to people who play through the entire game. I will tell you right now. I have played many an Otome game where it's like, you have to continue to play the common route again. And I'm like, I'm on route 3. I don't want to do this again. You can't make me, like, please don't make me do this again. I've read the text.
Well, I just want to make a really quick note on this here. One of the joyous things about Tanya inviting me in and me being to be the programmer is I'm going to be real honest. I'm programming this game to play the way I wish some of the quality of life features of these games had. So
Yes.
there are quite a few things on here that were resulting from my frustration. And to be clear, I love Otome games, but I feel like some of the
Mm-hmm.
interfaces and some of the aspects of it make it a little bit more painful, especially for games you replay, to
Yes.
do than it should be otherwise. So there is a lot of stuff in here meant to streamline things, to make it easier for people to get where they want to go, to be able to navigate and use the menus in ways that are a little bit easier and more natural than sometimes I think the setup is under sort of the standard format for the games.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for making it easier because I will tell you, I play a lot of Otome games and sometimes I don't have a lot of time to play the game and having to reread a very long common route over and over again just because the game makes me do it is the most frustrating thing imaginable or not be able to skip through stuff. Geez, like there's a feature in a Nitro Cheryl's BL games where it's called Nitro Skip, where you literally skip through everything and it stops at the choice. If there's a choice that comes up, like it just through everything until a choice pops up, and then it continues to skip, so that you don't have to sit through all of that nonsense over and over again. And I wish more Otome games would implement that because,
We have that. Skip to next choice. It's under the settings.
oh my god, thank you. Yes. It's these little things that sometimes folks don't think about, but when you're playing a game, especially an Otome game where replay is a big part of the story, gotta have a skip feature. A good one. A really, really good one. Or an
Right.
ability to like skip the
I
common route.
I agree. I love Code Realize, but I was never able to finish that game and get to the final romantic route because I was like, I can't with this common route. It's so long.
The common route is a game in and of itself, and then the routes themselves are like 2 chapters long. I'm like, this is who did this and why? Why would you do this to us?
I know. Can we please skip faster through this? But
Yes.
I think that our game is very player friendly,
Mhm.
and we've tried to add in as many conveniences as we can think of. And another convenience I should add is
Ooh.
that we do have two modes of gameplay for the investigative puzzles. So every once in a while Jane will be facing an assassination attempt. There is one such puzzle, one such investigative puzzle in the demo, and there's many, many, many more that starts coming after the demo. And you can go to the settings menu and choose to play in either story modes or detective mode. Story mode is the default. You can just leave it on, not fiddle with it, and you will get in-game clue indicators, butterflies that tell you whether the choice you have made is correct or incorrect. If you
Mm.
make a incorrect choice, you can very easily basically hit the page up button or mouse scroll or the back button and make the correct choice instead, because we do have both skip and back in this game, and you can continue your merry way and Jane will be saved. But if you really want to give yourself a challenge, what you can do is that you can go play on detective mode. You get no in-game indicators, meaning you don't
Ooh.
even get indicators about when you have pleased or you have increased or lowered affection with a love interest. So you are flying blind in the investigative puzzles and in the romance section with the detective mode, and it's up to you if you want to give yourself a challenge. Puzzle in the demo is deliberately quite simple and easy to do, but puzzles later on do get tougher and tougher. So you
Mm.
can always just keep it in story mode, and the puzzles will be very simple and easy, and it's easy for you to backtrack if you don't like the answer you gave being wrong. But if you want to challenge yourself, detective mode is right there for you.
And I do just want to say a couple of accessibility features
Mhm.
with this. You can turn this on or off at any point. So you may decide that I want to be a detective for the puzzles, but I want to see if Isel loves me or not. So at any point you can go into settings and turn it back and forth. And the other thing is we have tried to be colorblind friendly as part of our accessibility. We do care about accessibility quite a bit. So while the butterflies and the heart clues and things like that are colored, we also have differences in movement for them so that even if you can't see the colors on them, you can easily see based on their movement whether it's right or wrong.
Yes, even
Nice.
our clue indicators are animated.
Yes, I love that. I love that accessibility feature because a lot of games don't necessarily take that into consideration, particularly with the text. There's no sizing, there's no way to change the font in case you can't quite read the font that's being used. So I do like that you've included that as well, especially colorblind features as well. I did have a question about the endings. You did indicate that there are two types of endings, there are the friendship endings and the romance endings. And this is kind of a two-tier question. First is kind of why was it important for you to include friendship endings in a romance-based game? I do know some people play romance games, but they don't necessarily want the romantic ending. They just like the experience of interacting with these characters. I want to hear from you guys as to why you felt it was important to have a friendship ending. And then to the second part is for the romance endings. You kind of mentioned that it would be a fade to black romance scene. How spicy are we getting with these romance routes?
Do you want me to tackle the friendship one and you tackle the spice? Because you're really good with the spice.
Thank you. The nicest thing anybody has ever said about me. Yeah, that sounds great, Emily. I'm not being ironic. That is the nicest thing anybody's ever said about me.
Oh no, Tanya's amazing. Just as a side note, I'm so grateful that she's my partner in this project. She is just unbelievable and
Oh,
just
you're
Aw.
fantastic.
unbelievable too, Emily. You're amazing.
So on the actual question topic here with the friendship endings, I think we do want to make a little bit of a clarification around this. The
Mhm.
friendship endings are explicitly friendship endings, but they're also explicitly Jane choosing to a single ending. And so, in association with that, one of the things that was really important for us, this is a game where we're dealing a lot with trust and also forgiveness. And also, what do you expect out of a partner? Are there things that you can forgive? Are there things that you cannot forgive? So, while people can absolutely play this and just live their best single life the whole way through, we fully expect that some people are going to start on a romantic route, decide with some of the revelations in the game that they no longer wish to do the romantic route, and we give them outs at every possible point that you can back out of that relationship, because that is a really important aspect of what we're exploring. So it's not just that we're offering friendship endings, it's that we are offering you a choice is no, I don't want to continue this relationship further. I want to be able to make a choice in my life that I can exit from a situation that is not going to work for me. And so also the idea that friendships are valuable too. You can come at it from the other angle where you're like you decide that you want to have a relationship that isn't romantic, but it is about trust and support between two people. Or that you want to set off and leave behind the relationships that you've had and build your own life and your own future out the other end.
And for the romantic spice question, it is very important for us to allow players to tailor their own level of comfort. So, if a player decides to go with the romantic option, even after a ton of revelations and twists with every single character, and I do want to emphasize every single character has twists and turns coming in their plot. But if a player decides, I'm going to romance, I don't know, Edmund, no matter what I've learned about him, or because of what I've learned about him, they will have a passionate, tender, romantic love scene with Edmund, and they can go two ways. They can decide, I want sweet romance. This actually is a choice that they get. I want the sweet romance where, all that basically happens is some, kissing and hand holding and sweet words. So, if that's what they want like the sweet pure romantic scene, they get the option of that. And on the other hand, if some people want a little bit more spice, they can go for the spicy romance declaration, and they will basically get that kind of fade to black love scene. So there's nothing sexually explicit, but there is a lot of innuendo and a lot of implications, and it's clear what's about to, happen. And one of our stretch goals in our upcoming Kickstarter campaign is to have spicy CGIs, which again would be
Yes.
very tasteful. You're not going to see any extraneous bits hanging, but we would have some very nice shirtless sprites for the men, and maybe Jane with a strap or two hanging off or something. Tasteful, passionate, and we would go a little bit more into their physical relationship. Again, this is all tailored to the comfort of the player. They can
Mhm.
choose whether or not they want to see the spicy romance, or they want to continue with the sweet romantic declaration. It's important for us to give players the opportunity to choose one or the other so they can kind of tailor their experience. And by the way, both of the scenes are different.
Oh.
We've written, for instance, Edmund's sweet romance and spicy romance. You get completely unique dialogue and scenes for both of them. So if you're really a completionist, you could have a save, go the sweet romance, reload, and then go the spicy romance
Spicy.
if you want both. But it's up to the player. Whenever possible, we have tried to offer players choices.
Hey, I do like that ability to have different types of romance for your own taste. That's nice. Because you kind of get forced into one thing with most Otome games. It's like you got the romance, so whatever that romance end is for that character, that's it. There's no maybe I just want to cuddle. No.
Yeah, you definitely have the, maybe I just want to hold hands and kiss, and no matter what, we want kiss CGIs, but we are hoping to get animated kiss CGIs if we meet goals
Ooh.
on our Kickstarter. So we really hope we can we can fund that, because that will show up no matter what. You gotta have a beautiful kiss CGI. You gotta have a
Mhm.
kiss CGI. That's a
Yeah, no,
non-negotiable.
that is a must in an Otome game. I always hate when I get the quote unquote kiss CG
And
and
they're
like
standing 5 feet apart from each other.
yes, or like their mouths are nowhere near each other's faces and it's like, "Oh, the passionate kiss." I'm like, "There's like a foot of space between your mouths. I don't what passion here?" Or
These
the
mouths are in different zip codes.
they
They're not
are.
interacting.
It's like, "What am I supposed to do with this? This kills the mood. Thanks, guys." Or it's a kiss on the cheek and I'm like, Stop. Go away. Go. I did not work
That
hard
is
for this."
happening between me and my grandma. This does not belong in an Otome
Yes.
Games love
I
scene.
want to see tongue, like bust a slob, something, like please. But yeah, no, I appreciate the inclusion of actual kiss CGs. Thank you. But you brought up a good point about how you want to incorporate animated CGs and about the GUI and all the inclusive features that make this experience in Save the Villainess much more immersive and intense for the player. I'm gonna be honest with you, very honest. Save the Villainess is a very impressive looking game. It's gorgeous. The visuals are beautiful. The animated opening theme is like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like watching a real Otome game. Like, not to say that an indie game is not a real Otome game, they are, but like a mainstream Otome, it has a very mainstream Otome vibe to it, more so than a lot of the indie games that I've played recently. And how I wanted to know how you all felt about that comparison. I do know Save the Villainous is an indie game, and it does
Mhm,
have the
mhm.
makings of that with kind of the story, the style, and how the characters are represented. But how do you feel about comparisons between mainstream Otome games and indie Otome games? And how do you feel about Save the Villainous kind of being put on the same level as a mainstream Otome game from, say, Otomate or one of the other Japanese publishers?
I would say that we're really honored that we're being compared to the amazing, rich visuals of many mainstream Otome games. They're beautiful, beautiful games, and to be compared to that is such an honor. And we're very lucky to be working with world class artists. So Samate Studio did our art, and we hope they will do our Kiss CGIs, and hopefully several other CGIs if we can, get some funding and reach some great stretch goals through Kickstarter. We also work with amazing background and item artists. Saleha Chaudhary is our primary background and item artist. She's so amazing. She's responsible for some of the most beautiful, jaw-dropping landscapes of the game. And as I mentioned before, Emily, our amazing Emily, our programmer, she's going to be too shy to mention this, but she spent hundreds of hours animating every single character, every
Ooh.
single background, so many pieces of item art, so that our game really looks like a living painting coming to life. And I really am thrilled that the look of the game is drawing so many people in. And honestly, I truly believe the look of the game is even more beautiful when it's in person and you can see the animations. I
Mhm.
actually think the look of the game is so much more beautiful than stills can express. And when we were developing the look, staging, and design of Save the Villainous, we were inspired by so many different beautiful inspirations. So, one thing is that we loved the lush, beautiful, historically rooted Korean manhwa like
Mm.
Roxana and The Fantasy of a Stepmother. Those gorgeous manhwa were some of our primary inspirations. We shared, we really, really wanted to evoke that sense of like lush wonder as we created Carcosa, this fantasy version of the late Victorian and early Edwardian time periods in Europe. And we were also, inspired by that period's stage plays and silent movies and occult and tarot. As you go through the game, even in the demo, you'll actually see references to silent movies and references to philosophers and artists of that time period, because we really wanted to evoke that kind of like rich historical presence. And again, we are so indebted to our amazing artistic collaborators. They were the ones who helped us create animated backgrounds and GUIs and dynamic character models. Somate Studio, Saleha Chaudhary, Kei Mochi, they gave us the raw materials we needed to create a historically accurate looking game. And from there, Emily animated everything. And we just wanted people to step into this living world when they played Save the Villainous. And we couldn't do it without the support of our artists who just went above and beyond. We really think that if people get lost in the world of Save the Villainous and they start noticing clues everywhere, from the GUI to the backgrounds, even to the character models, if they start understanding how deep the rabbit hole basically goes, if they start understanding how our design sensibility has infused even small details in what the characters are saying or doing or surrounded by, we have done our job in creating this dense, rich fantasy world where anything can seemingly happen, but there are rules that everything plays by.
Best Laid Plans is a newer studio. This is your very first project. And with indie games, it's really tough to kind of build that trust because there have been some bad actors in the past that have made it a little harder for people to feel comfortable supporting an indie release before there's anything physically available. So I just want to talk to you guys about that, like being a newbie dev, your approach, and why it's important to engage with the community throughout the entire process of development.
Thank you so much for helping us understand how players are feeling about indie games. And I think that, it's really valuable to know that we are building a sense of trust with our, with our players. And we really want to be clear and transparent with people
Mhm.
about our process, what we're doing. We are absolutely committed to completing Save the Villainess. And the Kickstarter is a way for us to basically raise funding so we could sort of add to the base product, because it would be so wonderful if we had the funding for extra art and extra character models and new outfits and more music and all these and more programming time to do even more cool puzzles. And you know but we are completely committed to completing this game. We know that we can complete this game because we have a history of completing very complicated projects, both together and apart. We have a lot of experience with writing and editing professionally. Emily is an amazing programmer, as you will see from playing the demo. She has extensive experience with programming. She's also a musician and an artist,
Ooh.
and we know that we have the skills to create an amazing project. And we are going to absolutely keep people in the loop. And we are very hardworking people.
Mhm.
We are people who every single day we wake up and we think about, how can we make progress on this game together? How can we keep on pushing this game to be the best version of itself that we can be? And we are very committed to monthly updates and keeping people informed about what we're doing, while also, engaging with our community and releasing like little tidbits that, hopefully help people understand, here's where we are, here's all the legitimately really cool things that we are doing. And we hope that we're glad to hear that our community trusts us, and we hope that they keep on trusting us. And we just want to repay people's trust back with a great product that we make steady progress on as we move towards completing.
I actually do want to leap a little bit off of that, just
Mhm.
on that front. One of the reasons that we do have people trusting us is that there have been a number of people who have played uh, our demo prior to it going public. So we have had people actively involved in our development process for quite a while, and we do have a large chunk of the game already finished. We have more to do, obviously,
Mhm.
and we still have work to do. And the Kickstarter will really help us, hopefully, make it just an even better version of the game we want to make. But we do have proof that we can do what we're saying we're doing. So to be a little rude, we're not saying things that and writing checks our ass can't cash.
No, listen, I love it.
Yes. So
I
yeah, and so and in particular, I think it's really important to emphasize that we both have professional experience in a number of the disciplines that we've been that are involved in making the game. So as Tanya mentioned, we both I'm a professionally published writer, and
Ooh.
as is Tanya as well. We both done professional editing work. I for my career do both programming and graphic design, and I'm also a trained musician, though I don't work professionally in that field. I'm kind of I said earlier, the jack of all creative trades. I had a very interesting educational background. It has worked out really well for this. Uh,
I love
in,
it.
in terms in terms of what we're doing. And I just don't think without those years of experience, something like Save the Villainess would be possible. But with them, we've been able to put together our project management design. We have already large pieces of the game beyond the demo done that we're sharing with people. And so when you're seeing a lot of that trust in our fan community, it's because people have seen we've done it. So it's not just they're not just blindly trusting the social media. It's that we have proof we can do what we're saying we're going to do. We have stuff of it out there. We're going to be able to keep expanding on that, hopefully with help from our amazing supporters. But we're not just asking people to blindly trust us. We're like, hey, we've got 5 hours of game here for you to try. Come see if it's your thing. If it's not your thing, that's great too. We want you to find that out. But if it is your thing, we've got more of that jam coming.
I love it.
Yeah, and we have been really humbled by how many people have helped us alpha test and beta test our game. And we've had alpha testers and beta testers who took 8 hours to play the game, maybe
Ooh.
more in some cases, because they went through every single part of the demo and tried to log every single secret, every single alternate dialogue option. And by the way, every time you have a dialogue option, you get unique dialogue. So
Mm.
when you make, for instance, romantic choices with the love interest, you actually get anywhere from 10 to 15 unique boxes of dialogue,
Oh.
sometimes more actually. So they went through and they combed the entire demo, and I think our demo, and I think they trust us because they've seen how much care we've put into the demo, and they know that we're going to put an equal amount of care into the rest of the game. And our demo is also kind of our tech demonstration of what we can do. And you'll see based on the demo, we can do point and click puzzles. We can do investigative mysteries. We can do romantic interactions. We can do some dazzling cutscenes. Emily has done some amazing cutscenes in the game. We can have fully animated backgrounds and characters. We can have even boss battles, turn-based boss battles. Um, so I think our demo stands as our declaration of here's what is possible in this game. Are you in or are you not? And, you know, some people might not be, and that's fine. But there have been so many people who have enjoyed the demo and our crazy mix of genres and the wild technical things we are doing. And we're just so excited to share the rest of the game with them and hopefully fund even more beautiful art and even more beautiful music and even more beautiful animation sequences and puzzles through the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is just going to help us elevate what we already have and bring it to a next level.
Okay, as a player, that's more important to me than anything else. I backed some Kickstarters in the past where nothing came of it. There was no game. They canceled it. They radio silent. You had to track them down to force them to give you a refund. And I hate to say it, but indie games and indie developers have to kind of prove themselves more so than a lot of mainstream studios, despite the fact that a lot of mainstream studios have put out games that have been dud after dud after dud. And it's a little frustrating because there is such quality work coming out of the indie game space, especially indie VNs. And I really appreciate the fact that one, your studio is very transparent, but two, you've also been very good about reaching out to members of the community to get feedback, to beta test, to alpha test, to look at what you're doing and you're taking that feedback in and you're integrating it into making the game better. And then, as you mentioned, you have a good chunk of the game done. The Kickstarter isn't for, hey, we want to make this game, give us the money for the game. It's, we are going to make this game regardless, but we would like to make this experience better for you. This is why this Kickstarter exists. I think that goes a long way to just adding more legitimacy to what you're doing and the project as a whole. And it does instill a lot more trust in your studio as a new studio coming out. So I want to thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you for helping us understand where you're coming as a player. And that's really important for us to keep in mind as well, that we have built this trust and we need to keep on building this trust by continuing to interact with our player community and continuing to show that we're making steady progress in this game. You know, we have gotten a lot of writing done. We have gotten a lot of the base programming. Like Emily has spent hundreds of hours animating those beautiful characters, animating
Thousands
those
of
beautiful
hours.
thousands of characters. You know what? She's right. I'm underestimating how much work she puts in. It's so much tougher when you're doing a fully animated game than when it's not that any visual novel is easy to put together, but it's easier when you have a still background and it's you just put it there and it's a PNG file or a or some other kind of image file and it's just there and you just that's it. It's so much harder when everything is animated, but we have done so much of the base work and we're excited to build on it. And we will keep in mind that, as a new indie studio, we need to continue showing our progress to our players in order for them to continue trusting us and
Mhm.
realizing that we are doing our best to give them the best game that we can possibly make.
It's really nice to have these different lines of communication open for folks to reach out to you, to interact with you, to get information on the game, and to, engage with you in a space where it's comfortable and it's safe for everybody to have these discussions.
We really cherish the people who are on our newsletter, and we want to give them cool secret tidbits that other people don't get. And we love, writing character cards every month and coming up with fun things for the characters to say, because people come on our Discord and they analyze the cards, and we have great conversations with people on our newsletter and our email. And we're really grateful for the people who have been supporting us from early on, and who alpha tested with us, who beta tested with us, who have been cheering us on. They're fantastic, and I really know that Emily and I are going to do our best to give them a great game, because we have all the pieces. We just, we just are excited to run this Kickstarter, hopefully get the funding to make like the most expansive, coolest version of Save the Bill as possible, and to just continue on with the work of creating the game, which is a lot of work, but it is very manageable work.
And I do want to note on just on the newsletter front, for anybody who's listening who might be interested in our project, the newsletter is, I think, one of the best ways to get information about our project, to get little behind the scenes insights, to get extra special tidbits and the rest of it. And we spend a lot of time putting together a little story for people each month about what we're
Mhm.
doing, and extra little details about things going on. So if you are interested, you want to learn more before you sort of dive into our game and our world, that newsletter is a great way to follow us.
I concur. I get it in my inbox every month, and I look at it. I'm like,
Oh,
oh my
thank
gosh!
you.
I was like, oh, it's another one. Let's go.
Thank you
Um,
so much.
oh, it's worth it. Thank you. Thank you for doing it. That is an impressive undertaking, as is everything that you've been doing with Save the Villainous. As a new dev, as a new developer, what is some advice that you would give to others trying to step into the development space? And what are some things that you've loved and some challenges you faced while developing Save the Villainous?
I would say the biggest advice I could give as a new developer who's still, we're still pretty early on in the public space. We've only been around for less than a year, actually, in the
Hmm.
public space. One of the best things to do is to make friends and connect with other developers and learn from them. There's so many really friendly, kind, and supportive people in the indie Otome sphere, and I'm sure in many other indie spheres. For instance, we have been able to make friends with so many cool people like Cress from Crescent Studios, Ash from Steamberry Studio, the folks at Obscura, Lucky Cat from Silent Kingdom. You know, we have met so many lovely, kind indie Otome developers. They have really helped us. They've supported us. They've given us advice. Like for instance, when we were going through the process of uploading the demo on Steam, we were quite confused by some of the instructions on the Steam site. They patiently helped us and said, "Oh, there's this button," and we were like, "Oh my god, this button was quite hidden away. Okay, thank you for pointing out this button." So they can be really amazing friends. They can help support you in terms of helping you figure out what to do. So become friends with them, lift up their games, ask them politely to help them spread your game as well,
Mhm.
and just learn from what they're doing that's successful. So for instance, our character based marketing, we've seen other amazing teams market their characters in ways that really introduce their character's personality, and we've learned from those teams. Um, we've partnered up with Not a Fish from Studio Ghost Legs because we saw the amazingly beautiful character profile she was creating. We partnered up with Renery from Raindrop Atelier Studios because we also saw the beautiful graphics she had made for her game Diffraction, and we were
Mhm.
able to work and collaborate with them. When you keep your eye on other indie developers, they can be some of your greatest supports. And not everybody's going to be friendly, but that's okay. You know,
It's
that's okay.
fair.
Everybody's different, but there's so many lovely people you could potentially meet and interact with. And I always think of a romance novel writer. I
Hmm.
cannot remember her name, unfortunately, but she said, there is no way I could ever write enough romance novels to satisfy the appetite of romance readers.
Hmm.
That's why I partner up with other romance novel writers so that we can work together to expand our readership. I think of our partnerships with amazing other indie otome teams the same way. We There's no way one any visual novel fan or otome fan will play one visual novel or otome game and then just be content. No matter how amazing Save the Villainess is, or how large Save the Villainess is, there's nobody who's ever going to just play Save the Villainess and say, that's it, I'm done with visual novels and otome games.
Exactly.
You know, there will always be a hungry group of amazing ultimate players and visual novel players who want lots and lots of games. So work with other indie devs to reach those players. We will never be able to produce enough games by ourselves. So let's band together. And Blurdy, thank you so much for promoting our magic and mystery ultimate game bundle, because we were able to work with a bunch of
Yes.
amazing, like 11 other amazing indie otome
Hmm.
people to collaborate. So we got, Lost in Limbo, Silent Kingdom, Proglo Cafe, Mask Beyond Lies, Alaris, Sigh of the Abyss, Obscura, Thorn for the Villain, Snow White Ashes, Good People, Dual Chroma. We banded together as a group because we knew, hey, if someone likes one of these games, they might like all of
All
these
of them.
games. They're all magical mystery rides through, amazing fantasy lands with hot characters you can romance, hot men you can romance. If you like one, pick up the others, you know?
Exactly. I can vouch for a lot of the titles that you mentioned because I had played the demo version or the full version of the game prior. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, no, absolutely promote this. There's some really
Yeah.
great games and devs on this list.
We
And
were lucky enough that all of these Oteme teams are lovely. They're wonderful people. They're making quality games. If you're into fantasy romance games, I think they're all great. And thank you for boosting us, because I think that, ultimately, fans of the genre can enjoy, many titles. So I would say to a new dev, work with other indie teams, collaborate with them, and don't think of them as your competition. They are your
mhm,
potential friends, and they're people who can help you extend your reach to new audiences, just as you help them extend their reach to your audience. Always give back.
that's something I wanted to touch on. I have noticed that you're really good about sharing other projects on all of your platforms because I also lurk on Tumblr. But you've always been really good about linking back to other people's posts, linking back to their projects, saying, hey, I love this. And not just a retweet, it's always a quote retweet with a comment about how much you love that project or what aspect about it you think is worth it. So there's always that collaborative spirit with you guys. And it's such a good vibe, it's such a good energy. Because, like you said, a lot of times folks will see others in their same space as competition. They won't necessarily see them as people that are in that same community that they could work with and grow together. You're always quick to comment on a collaborator or someone that you knows or another project's tweet or post and say like, oh my god, yes, this is such a good game, this is why you should play it, oh my god, the characters are fantastic, oh my gosh, I can't wait until this. And it's less that you're a developer but more that you're a fan and a lover of these games as well. You're coming at this from, hey, I create these games, but I'm also a consumer and a lover of these games, and I want more people to play them. I want more people to celebrate them. So I just wanted to point that out because, I think it's really awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, yeah, I think Emily and I began as fans of the genre, and we love the genre, and we are so excited to see the genre expand, because as genres like otome games or romance visual novels expand and attract a bigger audience, you have more diversity in players.
Mhm.
You have more diversity in characters, plot lines, types of gameplay. And that's a great thing for the genre, because the more people get high quality product, the more they want more of those products, right? The best
Exactly.
way for a genre to die is if there isn't work coming being produced in the genre. So we love our fellow indie Otome games and pro Otome games. We still play them
Mhm.
ourselves all the time. I love boosting friends that I know are doing amazing work, cool, innovative, fun, like, sexy, charming work, because I know ultimately if not only do I enjoy it, but if players enjoy these games, they're going to be hungry for more.
Mhm.
It's not like you play 10 otomes, I'm done. Like,
Yeah,
I'm done.
it's
I never want to touch the genre again. The more
Ex
great otome games you play, the more you're going to want to play.
exactly. That's exactly how it is.
And I have just a I think Tanya said most of the amazing things in terms of advice for new devs coming into the scene. One of the things that I think has served us really well is we do have a lot of training and experience in the aspects of this. So while this may be our first Otome game, gonna be real clear, not my first programming project, not even my first game, but it's not like not commercial based one here with
Mhm.
this. And I do think it's really helpful before coming into something as complex as games, which has so many moving parts, is maybe, take a little online course. Even if you aren't going to be doing the programming, maybe, do a little bit so you understand like what code is, or maybe understand a little bit about graphic design or something like that. So then if you are working with people, you can have just a small sense of what people are doing and are involved in the project. And I think it helps make it feel a lot less frustrating when you do the parts that you're comfortable with. And if you're not sure about what's going on with the other parts, it can be very hard to try to put something together in the end. And I think having even just a little bit of understanding of the many amazing pieces that makes up games can be really helpful when you're actually putting a project together. And I know that that's been something that's been really amazing for us, is being able to both do the stuff ourselves, but also to talk to our, again, cannot say enough, absolutely incredible collaborators. And I want to give out, we've talked about our amazing artists, but I want to give a shout out to Junebug, Saki Rose, and Sokai, who did that incredible opening, which I think you've
Yes.
seen the incredible, absolutely
Whew.
all of them geniuses, just hairs on the back of your neck. Um,
Right. It's beautiful. Like, oof. Like I was like, okay, they mean business.
Can I talk a little bit about that right now? Because oh my
Yes.
gosh, they're just so amazing. And so we actually collaborated with them when they were developing this, and it really helped that we had some train. Well, in my case, like I've got fairly advanced level music training, and
Mhm.
we have
Emily,
training
you're
in Scrum
talking
Master.
about the music video, right? Just to clarify.
Yes, yes. Just sorry, I
Yeah.
got so excited there, but specifically our opening music video for our game here, and we sat down and Junebug wrote the lyrics out based on giving him some major spoilers about our game. So hey, if you want secrets, pay attention to the lyrics in that video.
Ooh.
That's
um,
both clues.
Saki Rose, they are such a brilliant singer, and they came in and also, given major spoilers about the game, infused their whole self into singing Jane's theme song, which is what that opening video is. And then Sokai, also given major spoilers about the game, went in and just did this incredible opening that, if you watch the visuals, does have some pretty big spoilers for the game in it, but also really, I think, captured the heart of what we want to tell as a story, and collaboratively it's this amazing effort. We are so grateful, and I think that's for new devs, is find people where you can get them to care as much as you do about what you're doing. And I think that comes across then in the project that you're making.
Wow. I that is just so much to tap into there. First, I'm going to be paying a little bit more attention to the opening. Second, that is a very powerful way to end that. Just finding people that uplift everything and make things better. That's wonderful. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. Now I kind of wanted to turn things over to something a little bit more fun. I wanted to play a little bit of a smash or pass with the main characters of Save the Villainess. Yeah.
Yes, let's do this. That sounds so fun.
So we're gonna kick things off with our leading lady, Jane. Smash or pass?
Smash. Oh my goodness. Smash a
Oh,
thousand times over.
smash. I mean, you're talking to two ladies who like some gorgeous ladies, and Jane is gorgeous
Oh my
That's
gosh.
fair.
Jane
in
is.
every sense, like both physically and personality.
Well, I'll be honest. I am personally. I would personally consider myself heterosexual,
Mhm.
but I would totally smash Jane. And actually, more than that, I would want to be our best friend. I would want her to be my
Nice.
best friend and my life coach and be like, when life gives you melons, what melons, when life gives you lemons, go fight some furniture, girl. You could do it. I want her over my shoulder being like, yo, fight that furniture, fight that furniture.
Oh my gosh. Okay, it's a smash for me as well. Jane is gorgeous,
Yeah.
absolutely stunning, and I mean, I love a badass woman. I can't go wrong with that.
She is so funny, and she does have a route where she becomes, we call it the swole Jane route, and I can't tell you more than that, but like she gets swole.
It's amazing. Yeah, I
Swole
love that.
Jane. Oh my gosh.
She really gets to kick ass in that route.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
Swole Jane. Okay, I'm gonna keep an eye out for that because that sounds awesome.
Usually she has to like rely on her wits, but in that one she just kicks straight up ass. It's amazing.
Okay,
Uh,
my body is ready. My body is ready. All
Yeah.
right, we've got Edmund, smash or
Smash,
pass.
smash, 8,000 times smash. My favorite character of all. I think he would make the best husband. That's what I feel anyway.
Uh,
Smash.
Didn't even get the words out. And you said smash.
And then
okay. Here's my dark secret. I would love to be Edmund's friend, but I'm gonna have to pass. He looks disturbingly like some of my relatives. So
Oh,
can you give me her number? Can you give me her number, Emily? What
wow.
relatives are we talking about
I
here?
I I think he is amazing and I love him as a character, but I can't do it.
No,
Fair.
I can't. I can't. To have
Fair point.
betrayed Edmund. Oh, I can't.
For me, Edmund is very cute. However, I feel some type of way about blondes. So
Oh no.
it might be a pass for me as well.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, Tanya.
you rule the day. You rule the day. He's amazing.
I'm
Sad.
sure he is, but I don't know. It's just something about blonde characters. They make me squint, and then I play their routes, and they're either really good or they're like, yeah, I knew I should have trusted you in the beginning. So okay. So next is Izel, smash or pass.
Smash.
Oh,
Absolutely smash.
okay. I guess this is where we share our dark history. Isel's okay, absolute smash. Just for clarification, but also he is inspired by some of our earliest fantasy characters. Does anybody remember long-haired, white-hot anime men from the 90s and the early 2000s?
Ooh, there's so many.
Oh,
There's so
exactly. I thought they all vanished, and he's inspired by that time. We're going to bring it back.
Yes, let's bring it back. Let's bring back long white-haired anime men.
Exactly.
Okay. I based on what you guys have said, I do love a dork. So it'll be Smash. Definitely Smash. I don't know. I love it when they make corny jokes and they make me laugh. Like they're just dorks. Like dorks are it for me. So yeah, Izel's a
If you're
Smash.
if you're a dork sexual, you will have a great time in our game. Dorks everywhere.
Yeah,
Dorks
that's very true.
I'm so ready. No, they like I love a guy that makes me laugh. Yeah, he can be hot, but like you gotta make me laugh. Either with a corny joke or just doing something really dumb. And I'm like, oh, you're just so cute. Come here. Just let me pat your head. It's okay.
Eisel is the funniest character who will never make an actual joke ever. It's just that
Yeah,
his entire
that's a fair
being
summary.
is a walking like laugh line. Like you will see. He's very earnest. He means everything he says. His life is just completely insane and
Oh
wild.
my gosh. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Okay. Next is Ben. Smash or
Smash.
I would say Smash. I like Ben a lot. I think he's a super charming character. Although Emily is always making fun of me because I can't write Ben for the life of me. He's like the most conventionally charming character, and I cannot write him for that reason because he's apparently too charming for me.
Oh, that's not true. She writes so many. I'm not sure. I think it's because I love him so dearly. She's terribly afraid to write a script and then have me come. No, no. What have you done to my boy?
I think so. But every time I have tried to write Ben, Emily just kind of stares into the distance. I'm like, yeah, I did that. Yeah,
Oh
I can't
no.
write Ben. He's very charming. He's very funny.
Oh.
He's very smooth, and he can take a joke, and you can joke around with him, and he's such a cool character. Total smash.
Okay.
Emily, we don't even need to ask you, do we?
Oh, I said it before she
Oh yeah,
answered the
no.
question.
Before I even
No.
finished, smash was out of Emily's mouth. Just immediate. Just I got I got it. I got it. Noted. For me, I've said before that childhood friends are a bit hit or miss for me, but Ben is rocking that vest, and there's nothing sexier than a man in a vest.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna
Oh,
be
yeah.
a smash for me. I'm gonna go with smash because I want to know these secrets that are hiding behind that vest.
And those
Oh,
forearms, those are the secrets. The collarbone, the
Ooh.
forearms, girl.
Mm,
Yeah, there you
listen,
go.
speak to
yeah.
me. Okay, and last but not least is servant.
Oh,
Smash. I'm a
absolutely.
little terrified, but I would
Terrified, but smash. Probably more terrified because we know the rest of the story too, but also still smash.
yeah, I'm like, even knowing what I know, I'd go for it. I might die a terrible death, but I go
You know
for it.
Yeah,
what?
yeah, worth it.
Exactly. What's a little romance without a little danger?
Yeah,
A
exactly.
little danger snoo. What? Death by snoo snoo.
There we go.
Die happy.
Listen, I would be
Right.
the happiest of all happies. It's gonna be a smash for me as well because
Oh
again,
yeah.
I like the dangerous, crazy ones. Like, and even if Tempest, I wanted Conrad. I really wanted Conrad.
Oh no, not the fiance. Oh wow, you're
So
living on the edge.
I I took to calling him fuckboy fiance Conrad like every time, just like
Oh
never
my
just Conrad.
gosh.
And I was like, I'm gonna get that. I was like, why can't we marry him? He burns you alive, and we were cold. He wanted to make sure we were warm. Like,
You know what? You're ready to save the villainous. No matter what we throw at you,
You're
you're
in good shape.
gonna be in good
I
shape.
also will say, just as a teaser for the Kickstarter, you're gonna absolutely love some of the additional characters on our Kickstarter that
I'm
come out.
Yeah.
excited.
The Kickstarter does introduce some interesting new characters who
Ooh.
show up in the game and play very pivotal roles, and maybe they might be romanceable. I don't know. Well, it
Ooh.
depends.
I can't wait. I'm excited. Okay, y'all are teasing this Kickstarter. Y'all are hyping it up. I got one more fun question, and then we can wrap it up. So I ask this to most of the devs that I speak with because they have such unique worlds and stories that they create. But do you think that if you were isekai'd into the world of Save the Villainess, would you be able to survive?
No,
No,
no, no,
no,
no.
no, not
Wow.
at all.
Okay. Better question. How long do you think you would survive in the world of Save the
Oh,
Villainess?
okay.
Wouldn't even go past the first scene.
No, okay. I'm not gonna spoil too much of the demo because obviously this is going public on Monday. But
Mhm.
there's a first scene that you're in. It'll become obvious when you go in the demo. I would be dead by the point where you make the choice that will keep you alive or not.
Oh
Yeah,
my.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think one thing to understand is that Jane calls herself an investigative genius, and she's completely correct. She
She
actually,
is.
she has flaws.
Mhm.
She overlooks some things. And to be fair, some of the things she overlooks is because she's literally a character in the game and not the player. So she cannot see everything the player can see.
Fair.
But while she has some flaws and she overlooks some things that the player might find obvious, she actually is correct when she says she's an investigative genius and she can make deductions that save her life depending on the player's choices. I think, I'll be honest, if I was in her shoes, I would be freaking out and screaming over the crazy things that happen to her, curl up into a ball and die
No.
Uh,
very early. Trust me. I
and
think I think she's
yeah.
actually kept a remarkably cool head, especially when confronted by person after person who might be out to murder her.
Fair point.
And I know this is a fun question, and because I'm a jerk, I'm just going to make this a little bit more serious. uh,
I
so
love it.
yeah, that's my style. Is I think one of the things that is most important about Jane as a character is that she has such a strong sense of belief in herself and her own determination. I don't know that, like, I personally in her situation could handle like the trials and betrayals and the situation she gets into, but no matter what happens, barring your deduction choices, Jane keeps trying. She is determined. She If nobody else is going to love her, she's going to love herself. And I
Oh,
think that makes her amazing, but it's a real hard road to follow if you were going to sit in her shoes.
true. Fair point. Fair point. But I love that about her, that she loves herself and she's out here for her. We need more heroines like that. So it's a
I think
win.
she is genuinely such a strong character, and not necessarily in the fact that she can beat up her enemies. In fact, one of the points that we make for most of the routes, save one, is that she has to use cleverness. She has to use
Mm.
guile to stay alive because she cannot fight off a physically more powerful force. That's just not something she as a relatively normal woman can do. But it's her strength of will, it's her cleverness and her willingness to move on despite the traumas and the betrayals that she will face throughout the story that makes her, well, that makes her the protagonist. I don't know if we could call her the heroine, but that makes her the protagonist of the story and the person who, by the time you come to the end of the story, she deserves her happy endings. And if you keep her alive, she'll get them. if, if,
If. Not when, but if.
if.
Okay, thank you. I want to say thank you all for coming through for this interview and sitting down with me and talking about Save the Villainess. I had a lot of fun chatting with you both. I learned a lot. I'm now going to be looking out for a lot more things that I probably would have never thought to look out for before. But yeah, thank you so much. You did mention the Kickstarter and the public demo will launch on the 22nd. And if you could tell everybody where they can find you on the interwebs, where they can talk to you guys.
So, thank you for this opportunity. You guys can always find us on our Steam page for Save the Villainous. We have an itch.io page for Save the Villainous. We have a mailing list on both of those pages. We have a Kickstarter that will go up on July 22nd and run to August 22nd. We are on Twitter, X is the stripper name, under Beth Laid Plans P. And we are also, you can also find us on Tumblr, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel.
Ooh.
If you come to any of our accounts, you'll basically see a link tree and it'll take you to links everywhere. We would be delighted to have you join us. And if you come to our mailing list, you actually can ask for character cards every single month from the characters, talking about things that they will never disclose anywhere else. So those mailing lists, the mailing list has exclusive character
Mm-hmm.
cards for you every single month, a fun newsletter with cool news, we including some stuff we don't share anywhere else. And please come and join us. We would love to chat with you. We're real people. You send us an email, we'll reply back. We love to interact with our players. We have a Discord community that will go live soon, on July 22nd. Come and hang out with us.
I love it. Okay. Well, again, thank you. That's pretty much a wrap.